It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day where the sky was too gray for comfort and the streets hummed with a strange quietness. Daniel, a 37-year-old accountant, had wrapped up his work earlier than usual. The office was unusually slow, and for the first time in months, he felt the urge to surprise his wife and daughter with his early return. As he drove home, he pictured his little girl, Lily, running to him with her chubby arms wide open, her laughter filling the house like sunlight. He imagined his wife, Sarah, smiling softly, maybe even grateful that he was home early. But what Daniel didn't know was that the moment he turned the key and stepped into his house, everything he thought he knew about his home, his family, and the people he trusted most was about to shatter into pieces that could never be put back the same way again. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, in protecting children, and in giving second chances to those who truly change, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to Kindness Corner, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. It helps us spread more stories that touch the heart and remind us of the power of compassion. Daniel placed his bag gently on the floor, hoping to sneak up on his daughter and scoop her into his arms. But the sound that greeted him wasn't the laughter of a child or the warm hum of a mother cooking. It was a muffled cry, sharp and trembling, coming from Lily's bedroom down the hall. At first, Daniel froze, confusion swirling in his chest, but as the seconds passed and the cries grew louder, instinct pushed him forward. When he opened the door, the sight before him nearly broke him in half. Lily, his 6-year-old angel, sat curled up on the floor, tears streaking down her cheeks, while Sarah towered over her, her face twisted with anger, her hand raised as if she had just struck the little girl or was about to again. Daniel's entire world spun. The woman he had promised his life to, the woman he thought he knew better than anyone, was standing there, her hand shaking with fury directed not at him, but at the fragile little soul they had both brought into the world. The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. Sarah's hand dropped, her face paling as she realized she had been caught. Daniel rushed forward, scooping Lily into his arms, holding her tight as she buried her face into his chest, her tiny body trembling uncontrollably. He could feel her heartbeat racing like a bird trapped in a cage. In that moment, his heart cracked in a way no words could ever mend. But the story didn't end with anger or even with confrontation in that instant. What Daniel discovered as the days unfolded was that this wasn't a simple case of cruelty, nor was it something he could walk away from without trying to understand. It was deeper, darker, and more complicated than he could have ever imagined. Sarah had been struggling for years with untreated postpartum depression, something Daniel had mistaken for ordinary mood swings. Beneath the smile she wore in public, she carried storms that no one could see. The weight of loneliness, exhaustion, and an inner battle she never spoke of had pushed her to a breaking point, one where she lashed out at the very person who loved her unconditionally, her daughter. None of it excused what Daniel had witnessed, and his fury burned every time he remembered that raised hand. But behind that fury was also a question: could brokenness ever be healed, or was this the end of their family? The days that followed were filled with unbearable tension. Daniel didn't know if he could look at his wife without seeing that moment replaying in his head. He hovered protectively over Lily, making sure she felt loved and safe. At night, when Lily finally slept, Daniel would sit alone in the living room, staring at old photographs of Sarah, the woman he had fallen in love with in college, the woman who had once been full of laughter and light. Where had she gone? Was the person standing in their home even the same soul anymore? Sarah, on the other hand, withdrew completely. Shame clung to her like a second skin. She avoided Lily's eyes, avoided Daniel's questions, and often disappeared into their bedroom with the door locked. Some nights, Daniel could hear her muffled sobs, the sound of a broken woman trapped in a cage of her own guilt. And though Daniel's anger was raw and unrelenting, a part of him couldn't ignore that she was crumbling, too. Eventually, the truth became impossible to bury. Sarah admitted she had been hurting in silence for years. The long nights, the loneliness of raising a child while Daniel worked late, the lack of support, and the unresolved wounds from her own traumatic childhood had all built into a storm she could no longer control. Her confession was both horrifying and heartbreaking. Daniel wanted to scream at her, to demand how she could take her pain out on their innocent child. But when he looked into her tear-stained eyes, he saw not a monster, but a deeply broken woman crying for help. The path forward was anything but easy. Daniel had a choice: walk away and protect Lily alone, or fight for a way to heal his fractured family. With a heart torn in two, he chose the harder road. He placed strict boundaries around Sarah's interactions with Lily, making sure their daughter felt safe while insisting that Sarah seek professional help. Therapy, counseling, and endless nights of painful conversations became their new reality. Healing didn't happen overnight. There were relapses, moments where anger flared and old wounds reopened. There were nights Daniel thought of leaving, taking Lily with him and never looking back. But then, there were also moments of progress, moments where Sarah learned to apologize, to sit on the floor with Lily and cry with her, to hold her gently and promise she would do better. Slowly, piece by fragile piece, trust began to rebuild. Years later, Lily grew into a strong, resilient young woman. She never forgot the pain of those early years, but she also never forgot the love of a father who fought for her safety and the determination of a mother who chose to confront her demons instead of letting them win. Their family was far from perfect, but it was real, raw, and redeemed through perseverance. And Daniel, though scarred, found peace in knowing that he hadn't given up when it mattered most. He had protected his daughter, and in doing so, he had also given his wife a chance to transform. The ending of their story wasn't one of destruction, but of redemption, proof that even in the darkest of circumstances, love, accountability, and forgiveness could carve a path forward. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to Kindness Corner, and share it with someone who might need this reminder today. Your support helps us continue sharing real, emotional stories that inspire hope and healing. And before we end, I have a special request for you. Drop a comment below and tell us, do you believe people who hurt others out of their own pain deserve a second chance if they're willing to change? Your words might give someone watching the courage to heal.